Welcome to Strength Chat Podcast, presented by Kabuki Strength. Introducing your hosts, Chris Duffin, the mad scientist of strength, Rudy Cadlow, mature athlete and coach, and the wizard of training himself,
Welcome
Brandon
to
Sen.
Strength Chat. Damn you. With your host, the mad scientist of strength, myself, Chris Duffin. To my right, our mature athlete and coach, Dr. Rudolph. To the left, the wizard of training, fatty himself, Brandon Sen. Today, really excited, in-house, we've got the American Gangster himself, Chael Sonnen. So, actually I posted up a picture of Chael. He stopped by the gym a couple weeks ago, posted up on Instagram, and it was pretty funny. There's several comments on it going, wow, the two Oregon gangsters have finally met.
That's right.
And actually, Chael and I have known each other for quite a while. I'm gonna tell a little story before we get rolling. But Chael has witnessed one of my few failures in life firsthand. So
What'd you fail at? Remind me. I would tease you if I remembered it. I would tease you about this. What is it?
Actually, I'm gonna tell the story, and I'm gonna tell the part about scaring Reese at the end. So
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Tournament.
Yes.
Baumgartner. Sorry,
Yeah.
I would not tease you about that. Actually, I share your pain.
So I was competing at the state wrestling tournament my senior year in high school, and I went all the way through districts, all the way through state without having a single offensive point scored against me. And I walk into the final match. Lights are all, all the cameras all around. It's down to just one. They were running multiple mats before that, but it's just down to that final mat. Everybody's there is watching. And I heard word that there was other coaches talking smack about me, about when Baumgartner, the three-time state champ, was going to beat me, whether it was going to be the first round or the second round. And I'm like, I can't take that. So I walk out there and I'm wrestling him. He's trying to take me down. He can't do it. I take him down. I can do that. So I'm ahead going out of the first round. And I realize this guy can't score on me. I'm pretty confident. Yeah, I'm going to beat him. So the choice is mine. And whether up, down, or defer, and I always defer when a choice is yours. Isn't that the...
Yeah, that's the rule.
Yeah, that's what you do. Like, it's not the rule, but it's like what you do.
That's what the textbook says, sure.
That's right. So me, I'm gonna prove all those coaches wrong. I don't defer. I choose down because I'm just gonna stand up and beat the guy right there. And Baumgartner throws in a leg right, turns me over and pins me. God damn it.
Hey, he was a good wrestler, though. I mean, he was a good wrestler.
He was good. After that first round, I underestimated him.
Sure.
Was that the pinnacle of your athletic career?
No, it was not. But as a moment, I will never forget. And then...
Well, you should never forget that. You never underestimate your opponent.
That's right.
That's right. So Chael happened to be there because Baumgartner was his friend.
Yep.
They were down there watching the match, and another mutual friend of ours, Reese, was there. And I'm walking through the locker room, and there's actually a table about this size, except it was like oak and about 4 inches thick. And it was in my way, and I went to just like push it a little bit to get out of my way, and it picked up and levitated and went flying across the room. And there's these two guys walking through the room, and they looked at me, their eyes just got ginormous, and they just ran. And
Probably the right move.
Yeah.
A guy needs to let a little steam off every now and then. You did the right thing. You waited till you were alone. You waited till you were in private.
And then almost 20 years later, I discovered that that person actually was a good friend of mine at the time, and we'd been training together for like 10 years at that point. And
he brought up the oak table.
Yes.
Small world, isn't
yes.
it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Like
Be
that
careful
was you.
throwing tables.
That was. Yeah. Oh, right.
Whatever happened to Baumgartner, by the way? He went on to Boise State on a scholarship. I haven't heard from him since. Yeah, on a wrestling scholarship. Did he stay in Boise? Did he come back to Oregon?
I have no idea. I end up, like I said, I got a full-ride academic scholarship to. I was supposed to go wrestle at OSU, but I got money to go elsewhere, and I'm like, well, I'm never really gonna make a career out of wrestling, so
always take the money.
I'm gonna go over here because I don't have to pay for school.
We should get Baumgartner in here someday. Actually, I mean, he is a hell of a nice guy. I got beat in the state finals too by getting Doug Lee. We went on to become teammates and worked out every day. And Yeah, but I mean, like you said, it stays with you and you've never forgot it, but there's still a camaraderie there. That's one cool thing about competing. Sometimes it doesn't go your way, but you do form a friend.
Yeah. Well, that's, I mean, like, the sport that you're in is just so, like, fighting is so hard. And people that haven't done it, like fighting, I'm throwing wrestling in there with that because that's my experience, but like, they don't have, like, a lot of our audience. So, for your perspective, a lot of our audience are strength coaches, clinicians, strength athletes, things of that nature. And I'm not sure how many of them have that experience and know just like how demanding that sport is. Like, 6 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever it is, while you're out there doing that and fighting somebody hands-on with your body is just such a draining activity. And people look at them like, why are they moving so slow after a while? And it's you've got to respect anybody that steps out there.
Yeah, I did some boxing in college, and I swear, I mean, the first time I went out there and tried to go through 3 minutes, just with gloves on and trying to hold your arms up. I mean, after a minute and a half, you're ready to freaking puke. It's unbelievable. It is unbelievable how much. In fact, let's talk a little bit about that, because you mentioned clinicians and so forth that follow us. A lot of people listening in on this podcast may not follow MMA. Chael, tell everybody about your experience as a professional athlete.
Well, to speak on the point you just made about how tiresome it is, people will watch it, you'll see it on TV and think, well, I could do that. It doesn't look so bad. Mm-hmm. And if you just grab somebody and go, okay, just do this. Just throw punches as hard as you can for 1 minute. With nobody in front, just hit the air for 1 minute. They'll be exhausted, absolutely exhausted. Looking at the clock, can't believe how long a minute is. So yeah, when you get in a situation, boxing for amateurs can be 9 minutes in total. For the professionals, can be 36 minutes in total. The human body is really not meant to do that. That's where you got to start kicking your heart in and your mental toughness and just grinding through it. But it's such a fatiguing and tough thing, and it doesn't just come down to skill. You work on your speed or your strength or your techniques, but those only last for about 40-45 seconds, and all of a sudden it's just who's tougher and who wants this more.
It's a mental
toughness, man.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you're really fighting against yourself, or at least from my experience. I want to quit the entire time. The whole time I was like, I cannot wait till this is it. Now I got to stay in here a little longer. Oh, we got one more round. I'm hurt. It's a good time to exit. Nobody would blame. I got to push through it. And that's really the battle. You hear guys talk about that. You're really only fighting yourself. What that means, because the layman can't really relate to that, what that means is fighting through when you want to quit. And that's life in general.
It is life in general. Yeah.
Be willing to do the things that a normal guy wouldn't do, or be able to fight through that, the stress, everything, all the stress from life, relationships, work, business, whatever it might be. Being able to be tough enough to keep going, it's hard.
So Chael, I started this with a story of like my failure. You've had some fights that haven't gone your way as of late.
Yeah.
You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, well, not just as of late. I always kind of had an up and down career. Even in wrestling, I had a large amount of success, but there was always guys that could beat me. I was never a guy where I put a gap between myself and the rest of the field, or had undefeated seasons. I could win it. I could win any tournament, no matter how big, from the state championship to the national championship. But things had to go right. I could lose it also, and that's how it was in fighting too. When I made my run and got to the top of the UFC, there was a lot of guys that could beat me. They just weren't. I was beating them, but they could have beaten me, and things just kind of went my way. And that's kind of been my career. So, there was never this huge gap. I respect the athletes that have that, but then again, they don't have to fight. When things come easy, there is no fight. It's when things are really hard, when you have to go out there and battle. The rest of it's just the punching and the kicking. The fight is getting up when you don't feel like it, getting up and facing a guy who's bigger or stronger or better or more experienced, or however it may be. But that's really where the toughness parts comes in. So, I've had a couple of contests where I wasn't happy with them, and I can live with losses. I go bring my skills, he brings his skills, and the better guy wins. When you underperform, that's when it's really tough. Where you go, wait a minute, and give me another shot. I'm better than that. I didn't bring my offense.
I know the last one is probably falls in that category.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that's got to be telling the story. I'll remember that forever. That was a nothing. That's a high school match, not like a big the big deal, the big show that you're running. You
Yeah,
know?
well, when people are watching, you know your ego's on the line. When you're half naked to start with, you're in a bit of a vulnerable situation. Now you're competing with this guy that you've told everybody you can beat. Now they're all tuning in to see if you told the truth or not.
And by the way, if nobody's watched it, your video where with you and Tito, like, and you're trolling him in the middle, you know, before the fight, it's just freaking hilarious.
Oh, I appreciate that.
I've watched that multiple times.
Thank you, buddy. Yeah, you know, and that's some of the fun of it, and you do put yourself at risk when you run like that. But I believe from a marketing standpoint or from a competitive standpoint, you have to approach something as though you're going to win. And I see so many guys that they want people to tune in from a business standpoint, or they want to be a big star in their industry, but they feather a nest before the competition ever happens. Well, you know, I'll try, or oh, my arm hurts. So they start to lay out these excuses. Like, you know, you got to approach this like you're going to win. And if you do, your stock's really going to raise. Now, if you don't, you're going to look like a fool. There is some risk involved there. But that's why they call it business. There's a risk involved. And I just think from a marketing standpoint, you have to approach it like you're going to win. And really good things will happen if you follow through on your word. If you don't, it can be a little embarrassing.
You've got to believe it, and you got to tell yourself it, right? And like, it goes beyond the marketing, right? I mean, this is my get your squat face on. Like, you got to put, like, if you're telling everybody else, oh, well, this, you know, maybe arms hurting, like you're saying,
start rationalizing,
you're prepping your own mind for that. You know,
you let the negative thoughts in, and it's gonna result in physical death.
Yeah. It really doesn't matter how tough people are. You know, I mean, that's a real thing. If you're looking for a way out. There was a guy that I was inspired by. He's the head coach at Ohio State right now for wrestling, named Tom Ryan. And he drove out to Iowa when he started his college career. Drove to Iowa, and it was so hard. And he didn't have anything, but he had this car. And he knew he could drive home at any point. Whether he failed out of school or didn't make it the wrestling team, or things went bad, he could get in that car and drive home. His dad had told him that, you come home anytime, you know, we can try something else. And he clung to that, and he just wasn't pushing himself. And one day, there's the only thing he owns in the whole world besides his clothes is his vehicle. One day he goes out, he covers it in gasoline and set it on fire. He now no longer has that car. He now no longer has an excuse. He now must succeed. And, you know, not only did he go on and become a national finalist and do great things, but he's hired as a head coach as the top team in the country, won a national championship. There's a famous Mexican leader that burned his ships, you know, when he got to Mexico. That everybody
Hannibal burned the bridges. That's where he talked about burning the bridges. Burn the bridges. There's no escape. You can't go back.
You can't go back. You must succeed. But it takes tremendous courage to do something like that. But you're either all in or you're all the way out.
Action, you know. And you asked me yesterday about, like, my background and, like, the successes that I've had, and what, you know how that tied together, and that was kind of the answer I gave you. Like, I had no fallback plan. Like, there was nothing else I could go. I only had the choice to move forward.
Yeah, you only had yourself, and I know a lot of people that are put in the same spot as you were, but it does not end up the way it does for you. They didn't have that toughness, that fight, that inner belief, that drive. And, you know, whether you need to thank God for that or you need to thank yourself for soul searching, it's a really rare thing. I know people that turn to drugs and alcohol and homelessness and crime and a lot of other things. And, I mean, I really admire you because of the way you played the cards you were dealt. You're tough. You're a tough guy.
Everybody has that choice, though. You hear that all the time. People make excuses. You know, I had a poor upbringing. My parents were divorced, or this or that. You know, but there's so many people in that same boat. Some people make the choice to move forward. Some people make the choice to cave in.
Well, let's talk about your choices. When have you backed out of a fight? I can't think of a time. Like,
no, I haven't. And, you know, it comes from...
There's a lot of people that will talk the talk, and, you know, a big opportunity comes up, and it's like, oh, I'm not prepped. I'm
not ready. Right. Yeah, but real life doesn't work that way. I mean, somebody walked in here right now and threatens us. What are we going to do? Say, oh, we're not ready? Come back?
Come back.
You know, we got a military, or a country at war. Our soldiers could never do that. They can't size the guy up on the battlefield and say, you know what, my arm hurts. Let me rehab this, and we'll reschedule this fight. It doesn't work that way in real life. And I've always thought, you know, that's what bullies do. They pick on people that they know they can, or they take fights with guys they know they can beat up. Man, if you're not willing to fight them all, then you shouldn't fight any of them.
Yeah. But I know you've got a lot of big loyal fans, but also a lot of haters out there. And, you know, nobody, you know, that's one thing you say, you never back down from a fight.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, and I want to back down. I mean, it's the bully mentality. It's like, hey, I'll either fight everybody or I just won't fight anybody. But I can't get to a point in my career where I start picking and choosing the matchups that I like or the guy that I think I have confidence in. I just can't do that. Mentally, I would look at myself differently, and I don't want to do that.
So what's your most prideful moment in the ring or in the cage?
I've had a couple. One of them was off of a loss. I lost the match, but I performed really well. And I'm a performance-based guy. I never think about the outcome. How's this going to end? I just think about the performance. What do I want to do? What do I need to put myself in a situation to give myself a chance to be successful? And if I perform well, I can live with the result. And I've had a couple of good matches, and I lost them, but I performed really well, or even overperformed. It was closer than it maybe should have been. I fought a Japanese guy named Yushin Okami years ago. I was ranked number 9 in the world. He was ranked number 2, and I just won. It was a really good performance. That one I did win, but I was really proud of the performance and hanging in there. And he hurt me early on and pushed through it. And just, those are the things that you feel good about.
Yep.
And you try to let the rest of it go, Rudy. The good thing about the mind is over a brief period of time you forget the bad. I've been on trips before. I had to go to Poland one time. Random example, what I think people will get is I had to go to a place called Warsaw, Poland. It was the worst trip ever. If you're thinking about going to Warsaw, Poland, call your travel agent and cancel the trip. But over time, I only remember great things about Poland. I hated the food while I was there. I hated the bed while I was there. Nobody was nice to me. But over time, I've got really great memories. That's the good thing about the human brain. There's an expression. It's like a fortune cookie expression. The more time goes by, the better I was. But that really is true, and it relates to everything. High school, everybody has a hard time in high school. You're awkward, and your body's growing, and people make fun of your clothes. Whatever it is, high school's hard. But I look back, I only remember the good stuff. So that's the one good thing about the human brain. Push through whatever situation you're in. Your mind will play some tricks and correct it over time.
Well, I think that's a trait of a lot of winners or successful people is, you learn from your mistakes, but you don't dwell on them. It's like you had a failure, and the very next thing you're doing is thinking about, where am I going next? What am I doing? And so along that vein, what are you doing right now?
Yeah.
Where are you going?
And that's, again, to your point, that's life. I get so much credit for being a fighter. People go, oh, he's such a tough guy. He's a fighter. I say, no, yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. That feeds my ego. But the reality is, the fans that are watching me, the people that are listening to this, they all have their own fights. They look at you and go, oh my God, this guy, he's not afraid of anything. He'll go, put 1,000 pounds on his back. I could crush him and blow out his knees. And you get all this credit for it, but the truth, they have their own fights, they just don't know it. Some people don't want to get up in the morning and put your boots on and head out that door, but what do you do if you have a bad day? You get up in the morning, you put your boots on, you go outside. What happens if you have a good day? You get up in the morning, you put your boots on, and you go outside. That's a fight. And I have so many people that will pat me on the back and tell me these nice things, but I look at the struggles that they go through to make their mortgage, to put food on the table, to plan for the futures for themselves and their families. I go, you guys are fighting. You're giving me the credit, but you guys are fighting too. You're just in a different kind of fight. And but we have to follow the same principles, which is whether you feel like it or not, you get up in the morning, you put your boots on, and you go out that door.
So that's the right attitude. Not everybody has that.
Not everybody has
Some
it.
people won't get out of bed.
I tell you, the world's a big place, and I've seen some people get stuck in the cracks before. And it's like, hey, move forward. Move forward. Time goes one way, forward.
So tell me about your time in the UFC. What's one thing looking back on it, just really kind of eat you up, or just you didn't like about it? What's one thing about that?
I had so many great experiences. The one thing that I resent about the sport in general, I think you can relate to this with the Baumgartner story you told from high school, because the one thing you didn't get, you didn't touch on this, but I know I'm right, as I said, the one thing you didn't get is to do it again. You could have won that match, but you would have needed a second try. And if you would have lost that one, you'd have gotten closer, and you'd have needed a third try. And in wrestling, we have those opportunities until your eligibility's out, until the OSAA says, hey, you're too old, your time's up. In MMA, you get 3 fights a year. And coming from a wrestling background, being a tournament guy where I get five matches in every single Saturday, get into high school, you get a dual meet on Thursday, all of a sudden at the end of the month, I'm having 24 and 25 matches a month. You come into MMA and you get 3 fights a year. And if you don't like your performance, you don't get to go back out there and try again, and recoup and get some of that back. If you love your performance, you don't get to go in and use those skills, and you're fresh and you're hungry. Right, you don't get to go out and reinforce it. You don't get to try again. So, that was the one thing about the entire industry that drives me crazy, man. I wish we could compete more often.
What drove you?
Why is that?
Why do we only get those many
Yeah.
fights? That's how the contracts work. As MMA, we came along in 1993. Dana White changed the industry in 2001, but the sport had been around a little bit before Dana was involved. But boxing had been around for hundreds of years and sanctioned for 50 years and happening at the forefront for about a century. And so we took all of our cues from them. That's how boxing worked. It was the contracts were already written. A lot of it we just adopted that paradigm and moved forward. And I don't know why. And some athletes would disagree with me and go, I don't want to do it that often. I need breaks. I hear fighters say that all the time. I really need a break. I've had 4 fights in the last year. I need a break. I'm going, 4 fights are 15 minutes apiece. God damn, you worked for 45 minutes. And you're going to come out and tell your blue-collar, hard-working fan that's driving this whole thing forward, that's got to work 8 hours a day, every day, whether he feels like it or not, that you need a rest? I would never do that. My father was a plumber, man, and he never missed a day of work. He was sick, he was tired, he was hurt. He never said a word. I would never disrespect him by coming out and saying, I can't go to work 3 times a year. That's garbage.
Yeah, I guess that's right. I mean, that's how boxing was established. They probably fought maybe 3 times a year, and they spent 4 or 5 months training and getting ready for the next bout. It's like, how do you train that long to get ready for 15 minutes?
Yeah, how do you train that long? And boxing was a little different, where even if you win the match and you dominate the match, you are getting beat up. You're standing there. You can't grab and clasp. And so I think maybe that was a little bit different and something that I'm missing because I didn't go through the boxing route. But all the same, it's just not very much competition. I mean, I know guys that are training in my field that it's all they can do. It's all they can do. They're just training so much. It's like, well, hold on a second. You're going for an hour in the morning with some kind of strength and conditioning. You're going a maximum of 2 hours in the evening, much more like 90 minutes. That's 3 hours of your day. And again, your fan base is working 8 hours at jobs that they hate. I don't think that you should come out and tell the world that you need to go home and lay on the couch and take a nap and play video games in between workout sessions. I think it just distances you from your fan base. And, again, to come back to my dad, he had to slug it out every day, and he didn't come home till that job was done. If that meant a 14-hour day, then he was going to be out there 14 hours. I just can't imagine complaining about getting to exercise and getting to be involved in a sport, for a few hours a day. I just can't imagine griping about that.
Chael, the Olympic sports for the longest time, whether it's gymnastics or basketball, baseball, boxing, the old school was you don't want to train for strength because you don't want to get bound up, you don't want to be muscle bound, it'll screw you up. But what changed there, and how important has strength training been in your career?
Yeah, there's such an interesting balance, Rudy. I've heard those same things. And I've never seen it firsthand. I know some guys that have lifted and gotten so strong. I've never seen muscles work against a guy. I've heard people say that, and I've always said, am I not lifting hard enough? Why the more I lift and the stronger I get, the better I feel as an athlete? When I keep reading this stuff that muscle's a bad thing. So I don't know where the tipping point is there. I loved lifting weights. I thought it was, it's the one. I dread workouts. Some of them are so difficult and so hard, and weightlifting is hard too, but it was just fun for me. I like to get up on the pull-up bar and try to, do more pull-ups than I did yesterday, or whatever the thing might be. And I just had so much fun with it. I really thought I lifted a lot, but I have heard that, and there is some truth that, muscle can slow you down. But in wrestling, it's okay to slow the pace. If you're so much stronger than the guy and you can grab a hold of him or grab his wrist and slow him down, that's a positive. But in boxing, Rudy, I have heard that where some boxers have said, I'd rather have my speed than my strength. I can't relate to that, but I trust those guys. Floyd Mayweather, when he speaks, I think we should listen. The other thing is when you watch Floyd train, he lifts weights 5 days a week.
Yeah, I'm sure he's strong.
So, Rudy, part of it, though, makes me wonder about misinformation. I'm not sure that some of those boxers don't know the secret is to tell everybody not to lift. But then you go lift your ass off and just hope that you've got another leg up on them.
Nobody catches on.
Yeah, I mean, if I was controlling this better, I would tell fighters, do not run. Throw your running shoes away. Forget about cardio.
You don't need to.
And then I'd be out there running and get a little edge. So some of it, I do wonder, where is the balance and what is misinformation? Because again, if you look at our professional sports, particularly the NFL, I mean, number one emphasis is not catching or running or throwing. It is lifting weights and putting on size and power. My uncle was an NBA champion twice and won an Olympic gold medal in basketball. And he tells me if I could do my career again, the one thing I would do is pump more iron. And I said, Mel, his name's Mel Counts. I don't know if that name would ring a bell.
Yeah.
Big star at Oregon State. 64 Olympics. '65 Celtics championship. And he said, I didn't have confidence. Guys would be coming in to block me, and they were bigger or stronger, and I'd let them have the ball. If I was just stronger, I think it would have given me confidence. And there's so much truth to that. You have confidence as a human being if you're strong. I mean, that is a reality.
Yep.
Strength makes you just it doesn't mean you need to walk around being a jerk and flexing your muscle all the time, but it does give you a feeling of confidence.
Ready for an arm off?
An arm wrestler? Hey, I'm a damn good arm wrestler. I want to beg to believe I could beat you even with two hands.
I'm a horrible
He's a
arm
I'm
wrestler.
undefeated. I'm undefeated, and I'd like to stay that way. So no.
This guy has one bicep. There's no way he's beating you.
He's got bad elbows and the whole thing.
Chael, you make your living in a very interesting way. What do you like about getting punched in the face to get your paycheck?
I don't. It's the only sport I know how to play. I came from a family of wrestlers, and I was the youngest. My cousins were champion wrestlers. I got one cousin was a two-time All-American. Other cousin's a Pac-10 champion. Other cousin full ride scholarship to Portland State. So uncles wrestled, dad wrestled. So I fell into this sport, and there's nothing you can do with wrestling. The highest you can go to, which is by no means a business, but is to make it to the Olympic
Olympics,
Games. Yeah, and you can feel great about yourself and tell people how
You're
to
not necessarily
Olympian.
going to make a great living doing that.
You're not there. Yeah, you're not
Be the
going to make
best
a
in the
living
world.
at all. So I chased that dream. I tried to make an Olympic team in 2000. I ended up as an alternate and didn't get to go. And this was the sport that was as close to the skill set I had. And as far as fighting, I got into wrestling to find out who the toughest was. In my family, we never believed the toughest guy in the world was Mike Tyson. We believed whoever the heavyweight champion of wrestling was the baddest dude in the world. But then that changed when the UFC came along. And we went, well, you know what? The baddest dude in the world, whoever's the UFC champion or the mixed martial arts champion. And so I just went down that route. But if I could do it over again, I don't know that I would do it. I think I would learn how to golf or play tennis or picked up another skill, but I didn't have one. I never played football or baseball or basketball. I only wrestled. It was just all I knew how to do.
That's a really interesting point. You're comparing different demographics of, fighters or combat athletes. Do you think we'll ever see a fight like a Mayweather and a McGregor happen to really decide, who the greatest fighter is?
Okay, so I do. Now, most people are saying that fight will never happen. This is ridiculous, and it's PR for both guys. I'm a conspiracy theorist. I'm in on it. I think they're going to fight because in the history of fighting, the hardest thing to do is to get both the stars to agree. It's why we saw Mike Tyson fighting those tomato cans and not getting in there with Evander Holyfield and Lennox Lewis in his heyday. We couldn't get those two guys together. So historically speaking, both fighters have already said yes. The easy part is to get the promoter.
Yeah.
I mean, we're media guys. We're doing media right now. We're sitting here talking about it. You get the media behind it. You get the fans behind it. You get the fighters to say yes. Every big fight in history has happened when you have those things. We've got those things. The easiest thing to do is to get a promoter to sign off. Now we can't get the promoters to agree. So I personally think that fight's going to happen. However, to your point, I don't believe we'll still find out who the best fighter is because it will be limited to just the boxing realm, of which Floyd's going to destroy him or ruin the entire credibility of boxing forever. Floyd's the best ever. Conor's never done it. If Conor could even compete with Floyd, it damages boxing greatly.
Yeah. So are they just going to have, if the fight does happen, is it just going to be a boxing match?
Yes, they would only box. That's Floyd rule.
Okay.
Because Floyd's steering the ship.
I
Floyd
gotcha.
is the bigger of the two stars, and Conor's acknowledged that from day one and said, we'll do it your
So
way.
that makes a big difference.
16-ounce gloves, no takedown. Yeah, boxing. I mean, you get it. Boxing.
Yeah,
in a ring, not a cage. Nothing Conor's used to.
I can't see any way that he stands up to him. But, at the end of the day, it's going to be probably one of the biggest fights to ever happen in terms of actually views, money, and what do those two guys care more about than anything? It's the money behind it. They've already accomplished, what they want to accomplish in the sport, and now it's just about, I think growing that bank account more or less.
And it's very hard to imagine that there's a losing spot there. What are you supposed to do when you figure something out? You're supposed to put yourself in that situation and go, well, what would I do? They can make huge money. Floyd can get a ton of credibility for going in and destroying Dana's guy. And Conor's really in a no-lose. He's going into a realm against the best ever in a sport that he's never done before. So all he needs to do is go out and compete, and whatever happens, kind of happens. I think us as fans, we're the ones that get to enjoy it. It would be a fun build. The fight itself going to last 30 seconds if that's how long Floyd wants it to last. But the build-up, come on, that's worth our $50. For sure.
Yeah,
We're having fun talking about it right now.
To expect somebody that's never done something to go in and compete against the world's best is, well, it's like, okay, say Tiger Woods versus Barry Bonds. Who can hit a golf ball further?
Right.
okay, who can hit a baseball first?
Sure.
You put them in a match, one versus the other. I mean, it's like, okay, it's already a fait accompli. We know what's going to happen.
Right.
there.
Yeah, it's like the strongest dude in your neighborhood.
But what a media deal that would be to get Tiger and Barry Bonds to compete.
I know a really strong guy. He opens all the cans of pickles when nobody else can. Oh, great. You want to go do a liftoff with Chris Duffin? Well, yeah, I think he could do it. Oh, you do? Okay, well, come on down. We'll show you how this goes, but come on down, and there'll be people that show up to watch Mr. Pickles, Mr. Pickle Jar Opener. So, yeah, I mean, that is a reality. I'll tell you, I struggle with this with boxing guys, is if you want to be a top 10 boxer in the world, raise your hand. Because there aren't 10 other guys doing it. And I'll challenge people to this and go, look, this is a fringe sport at best. And people go, God, how can you say it's been around forever? And I go, well, just name one person that you know that's boxed. Not that you've read about, not that you saw on TV. Just tell me one guy that you know personally who's ever been in the ring and boxed. No one will raise their hand. I go, well, here, let's make it easy. Tell me of someone you know who knows someone. Like, can you say my bus driver's neighbor's son, child's friend's daughter's boyfriend boxes? No, nobody does it. Well, here, let me take it a step further. Where's a boxing gym? If I told you to drive to a boxing gym, right? Anybody listen to this? Would you know where to drive to find a gym that No. Okay, I'll go a step further to make this so ridiculously obvious to you that boxing is a dead sport. Where could you go to buy boxing gloves? If I challenge you right now and give you 24 hours to produce gloves, could you do? No. No, you can't get the gear, you can't find a gym, and you've never met a boxer. This sport doesn't happen. If you want to be top 10 in the world, raise your hands. You can talk about Floyd Mayweather is the best all you want, and he is, but he's the best of a sport that nobody does. And that's what Connor's arguing. Connor's coming and going, look, I acknowledge you're the best, but nobody boxes. I'll come in there and box you. Only one way to find out if that theory is true or not. But the point about boxing being a very limited participated sport is true.
That's a pretty compelling argument.
Yeah, it's tough. Yeah. When I challenge somebody to tell me a boxer they know and nobody can raise their hand, and then I say, just tell me, here, we've got a girl in Oregon. We're all very proud of her. She won the last 3 Olympic Games in fencing. That's awesome. In my life, I've never met a fencer. In my life, I've never seen a fencing studio. I've never met a fencing coach. And if you told me to go buy fencing equipment, I'd have to go to Google. I have no idea. Nobody fences that I know of. So winning the Olympics, that's a cool thing. But who'd you compete against? How many people showed up? Fair question.
Sounds like powerlifting.
I couldn't believe that when they were contemplating pulling wrestling from the Olympics. Like,
yeah.
I mean, like one of the original, Olympic sports. Like,
it's Greco-Roman. I mean, it goes way back.
Exactly.
Yeah, they say it's the oldest sport in the world because, and you have to agree that it probably is. Either somebody punched somebody first or somebody grabbed somebody first. If they grabbed them first, then wrestling's the oldest sport in the world. If they punched them first, then boxing's first. But yeah, this is before we had courts and cars and balls and bats or any of that stuff. So it truly does go back, and participation is huge. Not only here in America is it huge, but it is huge worldwide, particularly in the European countries.
Yeah, it's big.
Yeah, they had some sport in the Olympic Games, the pentathlon, that has 24 people worldwide that participate. The state of Maryland alone has 2,400 wrestlers. Just the state of Maryland. And, we argued that point that, hey, participation does matter. You're looking to cut us to add this. But we've got the votes on our side. We've got the participants on our side. You're picking on the wrong guys. And ultimately, the International Olympic Committee, thank goodness, listened, at least until 2020.
Yeah.
We might have to revisit this down the road, but to 2020, the wrestling will stay.
So I want to jump back to strength training a little bit. Preparation for that three matches a year. But, just an outsider, perspective, it seems like there's a lot of, in the industry, like, these gurus, strength coaches that kind of get in and they work with one fighter and then make a name, and it's just I don't know, just this weird wacky stuff, and then next thing you know, there's some guru with a whole nother direction that's we were actually just laughing about it before you came in. We were looking at this guy, this strength trainer movement guy from Seattle, and watching some of his videos on Instagram and just laughing at the ridiculousness of it. And do you see that in the sport where people just kind of fall for whatever's popular, and then it's on to the next flavor?
Chris, you and I were talking about this yesterday on my podcast, and we were talking about nutrition and the fact that whoever writes the most latest book is the biggest expert ever on nutrition. It's like, hey, this is all BS. It's simple math. You eat more calories than you consume, or you consume more calories than you burn. It's as simple as that if you want to gain or lose weight. But yeah, I see it all the time, and man, the people will flock to him instantly. And if you can get one fighter that goes on and wins some matches, yeah, you're the greatest coach of all time. And it comes and goes like, well, it's really not true. You know, it's just simply not true. And some of the best coaches that I've ever seen get no credit.
The ones that are in the trenches doing work.
Yeah, the best coaches are coaching kids. They're showing the fundamentals and the basics. This is the form, this is the repetition. They're motivating them, getting them in there, but then they hand them off to colleges. You know, again, I'm using the wrestling. They hand them off to colleges. Then the media comes, then they hand them over to the pros, and then that guy gets the responsibility. It's like it was actually the kids' coach that taught him the fundamentals, motivated him, kept him on track, and taught him sport.
Yep.
You know, those are the real experts. But yeah, I see those nuts come in all the time, and I'll sit back, and a lot of it is marketing. If you can get a guy out there,
marketing, yeah,
and he's got good energy and attitude.
People don't know the people that are actually good because they're out there in the trenches doing the work and not spending all this time self-promoting or trying to chase down this one fighter and get him on there, you know.
Yeah.
You know.
Hey,
so they can make a name off that guy.
Chris, I see this in politics all the time. You want to be an expert in the Middle East? If you can talk about the Gaza Strip, bring up Hamas here or there, and mention the name Ahmadinejad, people are going to go, whoa, he really knows what he's talking about, because no one knows what the hell's going on over there. There is no such thing as a foreign policy expert. I'll see this at the highest levels of the White House, and they'll anoint some guy an expert of the Middle East or a foreign policy. If you can mention a couple of catchphrases that nobody else knows, you can lure people in to believe in you. We've never had a Middle East expert. It is a mess over there. There's nothing that's ever been done that has shown any level of progress. I use this example because I know people go, well, yeah, actually, he's right. If somebody does say, I don't know the difference between Iraq and Iran. So if a guy does, then I tend to think that he's a bigger expert. They do that in weight training too. There are not a lot of people that know it like you three do. There's not a lot of people that know losing weight. Like I have one of the few jobs in the world where they weigh you in before you get to go to work. If you tried that anywhere else, the ACLU would put a lawsuit against you so fast your head would spin. They make us get on a scale before they let us go do our job. Could you imagine? So I know a lot about losing weight. I would imagine when you see a guy that comes in and he's talking about strength training and fitness and how to put on muscle, and that you got to just sit back sometimes and roll your eyes and go, according to who? Come on, who says? I'm the one that's actually tried it, and that's not the way.
Yeah, there's some pretty fundamental, scientific approaches to it, and yeah, then you just see this, just some wacky shit, like on some videos, like I said, Instagram or YouTube, they've got people doing it's like.
Well, it's so bad. Our sport is powerlifting. It's the simplest sport in the world. You pick up, nine times you lift a barbell either off your chest, off the ground, or up and down in some fashion. Somehow we have these huge varying opinions across the industry, and I imagine in fighting it's even more because you have a much more dynamic sport, and to come to a consensus on this is the way to train for it is probably impossible and will never happen. So you have these windows for these experts to form and become the voice of that. So I don't know that it'll ever stop.
Well, that's flattering. That flatters me that you say that you essentially put us above powerlifting. I love watching Duffin lift. I don't say this just because he's here. I go online, I watch him lift. But what I love about it is the technique. I was taught to lift weights by a man named Tom Ogan. Ogan never cared about how much we could lift, but he cared how we lifted. Now, he started with us when we were 14 and 15 years old, so it was very important that we didn't hurt our bodies. But it was all technique. I have never seen technique on a deadlift before, like in your video. I like the way you come to the bar. I like that you place one shin, you place your hands, and then that last leg comes in almost like a snake. And the second that hits, I don't know if this is conscious or if you even know you do it, but the second your second foot hits, your whole body language changes. It's like that's a trigger in your mind, whether you know that or not. You go watch yourself on video. When you bring that last leg up after everything's already in place and you said everything changes and the look of intensity. And it's like when you hear that foot hit the ground, again, whether this is conscious or subconscious, you're on. And I see you do that and go, oh my God, and it's all about that technique. You're so goddamn strong, but if you don't lift that bar the right way, successfully or unsuccessfully, you're not showing up for a couple of weeks. You're going to pull something.
You're going to get hurt.
And But those are the things that I appreciate. And I imagine when you're talking about these makeshift coaches that come in, some of it you're watching going, hey guys, if you listen to this guy, you're going to hurt yourself.
Yeah.
You know, the CrossFit model is so commercialized.
I was just going to say,
like,
wasn't
guys,
it a few guys,
you're going to hurt
ago,
yourself.
They were trying to talk the MMA athletes into, like, CrossFit's going to be the best way for your training.
You've got to be careful. It's so commercial, and it's a great workout, and it's fun. You know, they
it
do
is.
such
I'm
a
not
good job
knocking
of
CrossFit at all,
marketing.
but you're not going to train. You're not going to train
Every time we bring up CrossFit, he goes, "Well, we're not trying to bash it, but here's what I'm gonna say."
And I don't want to bash you. I've got some buddies.
Let me tell you exactly how I feel.
I jumped in a little bit, but it's like, hey guys, I get that the time.
Let's go talk about burgers again.
You know, the time part of CrossFit is so important, but it's like, I'd rather see you add a minute to your workout, slow down, but
do it
boy,
right.
do it right. Thank you. It's so important. People don't understand the long-term effects.
Well, look at the
lifting
record of
and pulling
injury
and
there.
pushing
The
wrong.
record of injury with CrossFit
can-
is because of technique, lack of technique.
Rudy, you can get certified for CrossFit, God bless them, in 48 hours. I know guys that went to college to major in physiology and things like this. It took them 4 years, and then they had to write papers and go to classes and give seminars before they could get their certificate. CrossFit will give it to you in 2 days.
Yeah.
That's got to mean something to people. And I do some CrossFit. I'm truly not putting it down, but I am saying, be careful. It's not all about time. It's not all about repetition. It is extremely important that you emphasize on technique.
It's non-specific, and your training as a pro in a sport, like, that's.
Hey, a moment ago, did I tell you something about yourself, or do you know that? Do you know that when your second foot comes to place, that your body language changes?
I did not know that.
Yeah, it
actually,
is
but
a
as soon
trigger.
as I was thinking about it, and I'm
I
like,
can picture it right
It's a
now.
gun.
Yeah,
It's a
absolutely,
trigger
yeah.
for you.
Yeah.
When as soon, I don't know if you hear it, if it's a sound that makes, or it's a placement, but I mean, everything locks in. Like the one dude, I would not want to be in your way. You have the most intensity, but it doesn't happen. It's all in the process, and once that second foot's hit, whoa, it's game on. You should go back and watch yourself.
Yeah.
That might have just taught you something about yourself.
you might. I think you might have.
He's
Yeah.
pretty
It does
intense.
get pretty
He's
intense.
Yeah.
Well, the whole thing, I mean, yeah.
Sometimes it takes me a long time to calm down after a big lift. Like it's.
I
it
feel like
takes
he
a
kind of
while.
goes at 0 to 60. You know, it all starts as soon as he comes on the stage, and then when he grabs the bar, it goes to another level, and then the other hand comes in, it goes to another level, and then he's when that trigger boom. You should go back and watch. I think I really might have just taught you something about
I'll tell you a
yourself.
story about my first time ever meeting Chris. I think you know the story. I was this young, I don't know, 21, 20 years old. Come to his gym because I want to get strong. I was already lifting. And he goes, "Hey, will you spot me on this?" I mean, what was it? It was a floor press. I go, yeah, never done it. And there's like, 405 in his hands. I end up just barely touching the bar because it looked difficult, and young me didn't want to see you.
Don't touch that fucking bar!
Don't you motherfucker touch that fucking bar! Don't touch again, I'll fucking kill you!
Oh yeah.
Hell, like,
What a dick! He said that to you?
Oh,
And you're probably going,
first
"Hey,
time.
how am I going to spot
First
you?
time I ever met him.
We've all been there, Brent.
When he
We've
got
all
up,
been
he
there.
goes, "Oh, I really didn't mean that. I'm really sorry." I'm like, this is definitely the place that I want to have a
Many
career
times,
and
Brent.
work.
You're like, yeah, I'll be back tomorrow at 3.
And I'm here still 5 years later. Look at that.
It's happened to me many times. Hey,
By the way,
speaking of,
before I leave,
cross-
Chris, would you tell me
before
where the
crossover-
24-hour fitness is?
So we were talking about crossover CrossFit, but crossover sports, one versus the other. There's this reality show on TV, not the one that you think I'm going to ask about immediately, but it's called Dancing with the Stars.
Yeah.
So in Dancing with the Stars, seems inevitably every year it's the athletes that win, whether they're a skier, race car driver, football player, gymnast. They always win. They don't have the dancing background, but because they're athletes, they do so well. Do you think you might do better on Dancing with the Stars than Celebrity Apprentice?
So I can't. All right, you know what? Good job. Really, hey, fist bump over here. Respect. I got to go to a Dancing with the Stars. I just had a friend, Paige Van Zandt, so I got to actually go and be. I had so much fun. And to your point, they were so good. The athletes. They had. I think he was a running back for Atlanta or something. He was on this last season. Oh my goodness, he had rhythm and could move. Paige, athlete, she could move so well. So no, I would not do very well. I took the same girl to prom both my junior and senior year, and she had no fun because I couldn't dance with her. I was like, Andrew, I'm so sorry. I'll show you a great time. I'll take you to a nice dinner. We'll wear the fancy clothes. I don't know how to dance. Some guys have rhythm and some guys don't.
Well, the whiskey and deadlift shirt I was wearing yesterday, apply some whiskey to the dancing. And
Whiskey and dancing.
You'll be just fine.
There was plenty of people at my high school prom that did, believe me.
So tell us about your experience with Arnold.
Super nice guy, very compelling. Very magnetic attitude. He's probably watching this. He loves powerlifting. He loves it. That's how he really fancies himself. He doesn't view himself necessarily as an actor as much as a bodybuilder. He lifts hard every day. He had such a magnetic personality, though, and we all respected him. And some people live their life to be liked, and some people live their life to be respected. And there are two different things. Respected means you got to have hard conversations with people that you don't want to have. So in this process, he's firing somebody. That's the last thing. Being fired is embarrassing. Being fired on television, right? You're putting yourself in a very vulnerable spot. He fired all but one person who won it, Matt, and everybody still respects him. So that is a personality trait of a leader. And Donald Trump was the same way. Those people that came through Celebrity Apprentice, they could reach out to him to this day. He will mentor them. He will take their call all the way to the White House. He will still look after those guys. That's where the reality part of that really comes in, is they really do become mentors. I can still get a hold of Schwarzenegger, largely by email. Get him on the phone is very difficult, but he will write back, even if it takes a day or two. And everybody respected him. And that's the one thing if I could use one word for that man, it's respect.
That's great. So it was a great experience.
Great experience, and he was a great guy, and he understood. Here's the one thing that I got about that show, Rudy. Did you watch Celebrity Apprentice before or after? So I happen to really like the show. I didn't have to bone up on it and go back on other seasons. It was a show that I watched, but when it very first started, it was a reality show in that they truly were interviewing, and whoever won went to work for Donald Trump. They moved out to New York to Trump.
It wasn't the Celebrity. It was the Apprentice.
The Apprentice, yeah. But it was real. They didn't just go, "You're the Apprentice," and then take the cameras and fade to black, roll the credits. You actually went to Trump Tower, got a contract, got put on a building assignment, and worked. So it's very real. On Celebrity Apprentice, it's just a ratings. It's a rating grab. I understood that. We're working for NBC. They're paying us good money here. Let's give them some ratings. Let's have some fun. Let's do some crazy stuff. Let's make a show here. And if I'm going to do that, though, if I'm going to be an outlaw, I got to have a supporting cast. So I go to Vince Neil, rock and roll guy. Every morning at 7 a.m., he starts drinking. By 10 o'clock, he's drunk. By noon, he's got to be wearing sunglasses because his eyes are all... I'm going... That's my guy. I went to Vince. I threw him some ideas. They were over the top for even a drunken rock star, Vince Neil. He's like, Chael, I'm out. Have fun. I think that'll be good TV. I'm not doing it. When I couldn't get anybody to come along with it, it's like, guys, I think you're missing the point. This isn't real. The only realness here is that we're doing these tests, but we're making ratings, so let's go get them. And when I couldn't get anybody on board, it made it a little bit tough.
You got ratted out there by your team, too.
Where was the appreciation on that?
That's what I said. I was pissed.
Where was the appreciation on that? And, they first did give it to me. At first, I was the big hero. And Carson, who ultimately helped to chop my head off, and that's the game, God bless him, but who ultimately did thank me. He's like, hey, thank you. See what you did there? That was great. Right. I thought I went to bed that night feeling good about myself. I woke up the next day. He had a change of heart, and I know I was going.
You're fired.
I knew I was in trouble. I was going to fight it out, but I knew I had a straw man argument, and it wasn't going to hold up. But I tried.
Stitches, Carson. Snitches.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I saw him after that, so I get fired, and then we get in vans to go back to the hotel. They put us in separate vans. Well, I really liked Carson. This is the last time I'm going to get to see him. I just met him. He lives in this different state. So I get out of my van, I go to his, and when I open the door, he thought I was going to kill him.
He told me, punch him! Oh, the fighter's here!
And I put my hand out, I said, well played, man. Because that's what you do. It's a vicious game. You set someone up and you stab them in the back. But if you understand that's the game, you have a great time. If you don't understand that concept, you get your feelings hurt. We had girls that walked off set that were in tears, that were having to drink and weren't going to come back the next day. It's like, girls, I don't think you've seen other episodes. This is what it's a vicious game of set them up and stab them, but it's just a game. Yeah. Just come out and play. And the people that did get that, it was very few, were friends to this day.
Yeah. That's good. Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess maybe running is the second oldest sport, because if you didn't want to fight, that was it.
Then you turn around.
Yes. Then you got to run. Run away from the guy that's chasing you.
You just blew my mind.
What?
You just told me there's no Santa Claus. I thought for sure it was either wrestling or boxing, but you're right. Someone it's more likely that someone ran before they punched or pushed anybody, isn't it? Running. That's got to be running. Running is the oldest. Damn it, Rudy.
Well, he was around.
Thanks for
This is first-hand knowledge.
Okay, now we got to bring up skinny calves.
That line's not going to get beat, by the way. That's the line of the day.
We're going to talk about skinny calves now.
Well, easy,
We have to
easy,
resort
man.
to that.
Don't touch the goddamn bar. Well, I don't really know what it means to spot somebody.
I still want him to die.
You're right.
Yeah, I watched on YouTube.
Yeah.
I'm like, ah, help him out.
That's what Brandon learned how
I'm
to
trying
run.
to help.
I do that a lot less these days.
You're very mellow.
That's because no one will
You're
train
soft.
with you anymore.
Oh, is that why no one's around?
That's why no one's
Trains.
around. That's right.
That's great.
So what do we do now? What do we got now?
Well, well, tell us what you'd like our listeners to know about you. What's your future? What's coming next?
Okay, so I really don't know. I'm in a sport where what I've always found, and anything in life really, but in this sport too, is being ready is more helpful than anything. If you're ready and willing, that's when opportunities come. I've seen people. Here's the deal, Rudy. If somebody asks me, how do you get into Bellator? How do you get into the UFC? I could give you a really good guess of things that would help. Now, if you were to ask me, how do I become a Super Bowl champion? I can answer that specifically because the architecture is in place. You get drafted, you join a team, you make the playoffs, there's a bracket, you have more points than the other guys, you make it to the final game, you have more points than the other guy after 4 quarters, you're the Super Bowl champion. In MMA, it's different. You try to get your name out there, you try to get recognized, there's a lot of politics, a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff, and it lacks that architecture that can give you any kind of a guarantee. The biggest thing you could have on your side is to be ready and take an opportunity. I got into the UFC. I was one of the best fighters in the world, and I say that because I was in the room with world champions, and I know how the practices were going, but I could not get my opportunity. I read the internet one day, a guy had pulled out. This guy named Babalu was left without an opponent 6 days later. No one would fight him, and I sent an email to the UFC and said, I'll fight him. Boom. Had a contract within an hour, and I was in. So being ready and being willing, and don't be afraid to fail. I mean, that's the other thing, too. Failure. People will tell you failure's not an option. What a bunch. Failure's always an option.
Yep.
Anytime your back's against the wall, I fail, I quit, I give up. Failure is always an option. You got to fight like hell to make sure it's not. And if you're ready,
if you're not willing to fail, you're not in position to win.
what are you doing in life? Homer Simpson had a great line where he was giving Bart advice one day, and he said, "Son, you will never fail if you never try." But he's right. You're going to fail if you try stuff. Don't be afraid of that, man. If it's something you want to do, chase your dreams. That would be my advice.
Yeah, that's great. That's great life advice. I mean, be ready. You never know when your opportunity is going to come up, or recognize when it is an opportunity.
Yeah, Rudy, you know this from your building days, but a lot of it is right place at the right time. You don't know what the hell the market's going to do. You miss a meeting, you miss an opportunity, you don't return a phone call, it can change your whole career. Sure. Be ready. Answer that phone when it rings. Show up. It's those little things, return call. I want to get a hold of Chris Duffin. I can do it 24 hours a day, 365. Within an hour, he will get back to me. But that's what a professional does. He answers his phone. It's small stuff like that, but I can tell you other people that I've called to give them an opportunity that don't call me back for a week. And it's like, I had an opportunity. I
Chris
filled
does
it.
not
I
answer
don't
his
answer
phone.
the phone, but I do.
He'll get back to you, but not
He might return a call.
Maybe
He
I
won't
won't
answer the phone.
Yeah, well, okay, fair enough. It is text message. Fair enough. I stand
That text
corrected.
message he'll get back to you.
But communication is so important. I know people that just don't do it, and it's a big way to miss out on opportunities. Is to not be ready, not act professional.
So we were communicating right before we started our pre-podcast chat was about burgers, and
they weren't exactly great burger discussions.
No, they
'cause
weren't.
we're in Portland.
Yeah.
Where we have amazing food, but we were discoursing on In-N-Out, double Big Macs.
Rudy, I
Whoppers.
argue that Stanich is the best burger in the world. I asked you if you'd been there. You didn't really pop for it. Do you not like the Stanich burger?
I like Stanich. It's just a little uncomfortable in there with all the hair hanging off the pennants
Yeah.
that have been there for so long.
Sure. When George was in there, the original Stanich, because the way they do it with that grill and it's open, you can see the guy cooking your food. He was a big guy and it was hot back there. He would sweat. The sweat would hit the grill and you could hear it
It's sizzling off
And the
the
food was
grill.
so good, people were like, I'll take it
Tastes a
anyway.
little salty.
Maybe it added to the flavor. I don't know.
They've been ranked number 1 in the state for like 26 years, but they just got ranked number 9 in the country. Now, I argue that's a bogus rating that they are number 1, and that's a challenge. If there's a better burger than Stanich, just tell me where it is and I'll go try
I
it.
did not know that they had a location still around.
Southeast, yeah.
The one used to be over off of McAdam there,
Yep.
but they're
Yeah, that's the
Right
only
at
one I've
John's
ever
Landing.
been. Yeah.
That got moved to a Jolly Rancher, and because Steve's wife got sick, and so he wasn't there as much, and so whatever happened, they ended up shutting it down. But yeah, the Southeast is still.
We got to go to Stanich's this week.
Oh, it's so good.
Yeah, we'll have to do that. You're still an In-N-Out burger guy, Chris, but
Well, no. I mean, when we
when
travel
we're on the road,
when we're
because
on the
we don't
road,
have it here.
But I'm not really a fan of In-N-Out. It's just this. We were just having this discussion. Like it's the same thing. Like it's not great, but
obligated to
you're
do
kind of
it.
like, yeah. I don't know. I'm trying to like, I gotta go over there.
The world
you know?
has told us it's
So-
a great burger,
so-
we gotta go get one.
Exactly.
And it's a good burger.
It is. It is a good.
But that's
burger,
what
it's
it
not. It's not a great burger.
It's not a great
In-N-Out.
burger.
No.
It's a good burger.
But you prefer the Whopper over.
I would
the
just
In-N-Out,
argue
right?
the Whopper with cheese. I really can't think of anything that can beat it. It's got all your toppings. The sauce is great. I mean, they've made over 1 billion of them, and they've got it right. It's as simple as that.
I didn't know about this whole like Big Mac though with no bread in the middle.
Yeah, that's
So,
new. They're called the Big Mac Junior. I haven't tried it yet. I saw it on TV. Thought I could eat about 3 or 4 of them, and I'm going to before the deal. It's the same thing with the McRib. I don't know if you've had the pleasure of trying one of those.
I've never had the McRib.
Oh, it's excellent. Get it with extra onion. Oh, the McRib's the real deal.
Well,
So I'm not sure if
I quit eating McDonald's and Burger King and stuff in the '90s, and then I started I've had some in the last few years, so I broke it down and yeah.
I'm not sure if we've taken Strength Chat to new heights or new lows here, but it's about the most fun we've had lately.
So, but I will say the cheese on the I cannot stand McDonald's.
That yellow covered square.
It's not cheese. It's something like
It's yellow.
It's yellow substance.
Right.
Yeah. I don't know what it is, but it is certainly not cheese.
And I'll add this, since we have gone in a weird direction, let's just bow this thing up, which is, I don't know why In-N-Out and Burger King can't get a French fry right. Now, that is where McDonald's absolutely dominates.
They've always been the best because they come from Idaho.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So, boom.
Well, Chael, thanks so much for joining us.
Is that it?
It's
Here's
been a
your hat.
blast.
What's your hurry?
Hey,
Chael, thanks for coming. Go.
We try to keep it around 55 minutes, so we're coming
Cool.
up on that right now.
I'm pretty sure you kicked me off yesterday, so it's my turn.
It's your
Okay.
turn. Here's your hat. What's your hurry?
You're fired.
Wouldn't be the first time, gentlemen.
Again.
This time I wasn't electrocuted, but good. Can I tell you what really happened on that story?
Yeah, let's hear it.
I'll just tell you this briefly. If you want to drop it, fine.
The
If the
cameras don't lie.
fans want to stick around. So I had this whole thing planned. We need to stall the project, which you can do with the technical difficulty. Fine. I sum the room up real fast. Scissors, cord, no problem. Now, I don't have a ton of experience with electricity, but I figured you just snip the cord
Yeah,
and
it's
go on
simple,
about
yeah.
your day. So I do this. I've got this plan hatched for 30 minutes before I carry it out. So I've grabbed the scissors. I'm wearing a long sleeve shirt. The scissors are now up my shirt. I've slid them out. Nobody knows I have them. I bend down. Now, there's 4 cameras in the room. None of them caught it, which is why they didn't actually show the snip on TV. They didn't have it. I had the whole thing so wired that even when I went down, nobody was paying any attention. In my mind, I'm going to cut this, and then the printer sat on a little bit of a shelf. So I'm going to snip the cord, and then I'm going to stash the scissors under this shelf. No one's going to know. Another 20 minutes, I'm going to go to print something. It's not going to print. I'm going to printer doesn't work. Oh, probably because the cord's
Technical difficulty.
Nobody's ever going to connect the two. Rudy, it shocked the living. Black smoke comes up. Even when they show it, you couldn't quite see it because there's an angle. It's all around my eye. I don't know where I am. I don't know if it's today, the next day, if it's
Was your
in
hair
an
kind of
hour.
standing up on end?
3 overhead cans blow. Computer goes dead. Everyone's. I've dropped the scissors now because again I was electrocuted. I mean, I don't know if I should have been fired or arrested. It could have started a fire at NBC Universal, and I'm just kind of going, what just? It's a little wimpy cord. It was like it was the power cord to the entire complex or something.
To all of NBC.
Yeah, so as far as snipping it and stashing it, no, that plan was
That
gone. I
didn't
was
work.
beat. Hey, I was beat. Can't blame a guy for trying. It's all in the execution.
Or electrocution.
Yes, it's all in the electrocution. Well said.
That's a great story.
All right, now I really am done. I've had it with you all.
Thanks again, Chael.
Thanks,
Thank
Shane.
you so much.
Always a
Thanks
pleasure.
for joining us on another episode of Strength Chat. Yeah, it was fun.
Hard to believe they call that work.
That was fun.
And that is so fun. Get a group of guys together, visit.
Yeah.